Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Board of Supervisors meeting. Madam Clerk, we'll start with our delayed 1 o'clock calendar.
Report of closed session, item number 3, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Personnel matter, conference with labor negotiator Judy Hawkins, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, regarding Deputy Sheriff's Association, Sheriff's Management Unit, Service Employees International Union, and Calaveras County Public Safety Employees Association negotiations. No reportable action taken.
Thank you. That was the result of our closed session during the lunch hour. Now, we're going to go back to the regular agenda, and we did have a temporary adjustment, postponement, and that's going to be item 18. Madam Clerk.
Item 18 is the Administrative Office. Adopt a resolution waiving the requirement described in County Code Section 15.08.130 that a request for a proposal be issued by the county to secure engineering consultants or vendors to prepare the Nexus study and designating SCI Consulting Group as the district's impact fee consultant to prepare the Nexus study and fee program.
CEO Lutz, are you going to present?
Yes, I had given a summary before. I don't know if the board wishes me to repeat the summary or not. I know where we left it off was, I'm sorry.
Does any board member need to review the summary given by CEO Lutz?
It was this morning.
Then I'm going to have you do that again.
No problem. So what this item is asking for is it's bringing forward from Calaveras Consolidated Fire District Board conducted a public hearing on June 22nd, 2015 in order to adopt a resolution approving fire impact fees for residential, non-residential development. So the next step per county ordinance in that is for a fee study to be conducted in order to validate what the fee request is. And that's specifically in Chapter 15.08 of County Ordinance. And that then requires that once the fire district passes a resolution, the board takes action on behalf of the district, in this case Calaveras Consolidated, and then the county issues an RFP for a Nexus study to choose a consultant to basically establish what that fee would be for the impact. The deviation in this instance is Calaveras Consolidated circumvented the normal process in code and instead chose to hire SCI Consulting Group to develop that fire mitigation fee. And what then this would be asking for is to specifically waive the requirement described in Chapter 15.08 where the request for proposal would be issued by the county and instead designate SCI Consulting as the district's impact fee consultant to prepare the Nexus study. And I think the public comment, and I don't know if that gentleman's still here or not, had a question on what the cost was for SCI, and part of that we wanted Jason Robitel, Chief for Calaveras Consolidated, is here to address some of the questions that the board might have.
Before we get into that, I have a question for council. Council, by this action, we are permanently changing the resolution, waiving the requirement described in County Code Section 15.8.130. Is that the situation?
You aren't, you aren't modifying the ordinance or the requirements. You're just waiving this one requirement of county code under the circumstances.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was clear to everybody. All right. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Jason Robitel, Fire Chief with Calaveras Consolidated Fire. Appreciate you bringing this matter to this board. We're excited. It has been a long time coming, as you mentioned the date of 2015. I want to remind the board at that time we were a new fire district, and we were looking at, my task was to look at just kind of how we've done business in the fire service in the past and how we're going to do it moving forward. sold 2 firehouses, 10 fire stations, 10 fire pieces of equipment, 2 fire stations, and restructuring our whole deployment strategy. In that process, we came across that our impact fees have not been updated since 1990, and that they kind of industry standard is every 5 years. So at that time, we approached the county in good faith, and we're trying to get some instruction on how to do this process, because again, no one has done it since that time. We were instructed that we would need to find a consultant. The cost of the consultant, I believe, was $12,500. We went to other districts to see if there would be some cost sharing, and then later found out that wouldn't be appropriate because each Nexus study is going to be tied directly to that specific fire agency. So we brought forth an enabling ordinance to allow us to proceed. That was before the board, I think, about a year and a half ago. And at the time, it was successful to move forward. So what we're asking is that the district's already incurred some cost, some tax dollars been used for this effort. We sought out the best consultant that we've had that has a lot of experience doing this throughout the state. So we're confident in the report and the Nexus study that was developed. And I think instead of doing some redundancies and looking for some efficiencies in government, we're hoping that we can use this process and move forward.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions by the board of the chief? I have one question. Chief, what is SCI? Is it stand for a name of a company, or is it just the letter designation?
I do not know if it's an acronym that's
Okay.
directly, I don't know what SCI stands for.
And how did we find this company?
This company, we polled several fire districts and fire departments throughout the state and looked at their impact fees and noticed that there was a consistent, relations between all the studies, and that SCI conducted a number of them. So we thought, with their track record, and again, I can't really speak to their track record, but directly right now, because I don't have kind of all their stats, but they had pages of departments and districts that they've used, so they're very reputable. And we're confident, and the board was confident at the time to proceed with their study.
Thank you, Chief. The chair would like to recognize the chiefs for the various fire districts. Ebbets Pass, Chief Johnson, San Andreas, Chief Bill down there in the back. Of course, Chief Young.
I was blocking his view, sorry.
Yeah, and I don't know your name, sir. I apologize. Mike Doyle, Chief Doyle? Doyle, Mike DeOro, okay. DeLoro, and I don't know the gentleman in uniform.
This is Chief Evans from CAL FIRE.
Chief Evans from CAL FIRE, thank you. And of course, Chief Jason Robitussin. Thank you very much for coming, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Any further comments by staff, and that does include fire staff, fire chief? Okay. Any questions by the board? This time we'll open it up to public comment. We'll have 3 minutes per speaker.
Hi, Marty Crane. I just have to take a moment to say that we've had many, many opportunities over the years to learn from big fires and little fires and everything around us. And so being prepared is the only thing that we can do to provide options for our people in the midst of big emergencies and disasters. And I always say that if your fire department asks you for money, do everything you can to say yes. Because personally, I looked at the $75 that Central Fire was recently voted on. They couldn't get 2/3 vote, but for $75, it comes to 20 cents a day. I personally would have a hard time calling the fire department to come help me if I chose not to pay the 20 cents, although they want us to call them, the 20 cents a day, because these are fabulous people that would come into my home when it's on fire to save me, save my pets, save my home, save our neighborhood, be the heroes of the day or the month or the year. And so anytime the fire department asks you for money, please, try your best to say yes. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further public comment? Any speakers? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Any discussion, deliberation?
Mr. Chair, I would move this item.
It's been moved by Supervisor Toffenelli,
Second?
second by Supervisor Garamendi. Public comment's already been addressed. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed indicate by saying no. Hearing none, motion carries 5-0, unanimous. Madam Clerk.
Item 28, Administrative Office. Conduct a study session on a potential ban of safe and sane fireworks in the unincorporated parts of the county.
All right.
CAO
I
Lutz.
told you guys would be tired of me today.
I'm sorry,
I
what?
don't know how it worked out that I had a lot of items today.
Well, I kind of started you on this one.
Well, and that's why, you know, but by way of a background or summary, why is this item coming to the board today? And I will say this is an item that has been brought, you know, a request that has been brought to me by multiple supervisors in the short tenure that I've been here. And I think the hard part is this is a clearly contentious issue on the use of safe and sane fireworks, primarily because it is a key fundraiser for a lot of the nonprofits within the community. And so what we decided is, one, if the county's ever going to look at doing this, the time to do it is before these nonprofits are making their orders for the year. And so it would have to be around this time or after the 4th of July, sometime before those orders start to get placed. And also at the same time to really garner some of the feedback of, is this the way that we want to go? Are there better options to look out and research that we potentially haven't thought of? And so when I did some research and digging on the sale of safe and sane fireworks, what I found is, roughly fairly even split between the cities and counties. About 49% of California are prohibiting the sale and use. And mostly the ones that are allowing it are through the lowland Central Valley or urban areas that don't necessarily not necessarily large urban, but suburban type of areas. And then on the Sierra Nevada, really the bulk of the counties at this point have implemented bans of the safe and sane, and that goes from Butte all the way down to Mariposa County, where with the exception of a few cities within those counties, the counties and unincorporated areas have banned their use. Now, obviously, one of the challenges to any type of a ban is, of course, being able to enforce the activities of preventing people from using them. The risks on that side could be more response from sheriff, more response from fire. Right now, CAL FIRE does help enforce the ban in Tuolumne County. Part of the reason for this study session, we reached out to both the fire district chiefs, but also CAL FIRE to provide any statistics that they had regarding fire activity, and also to provide some input and comments into this process. And while, again, CAL FIRE doesn't have a position per se, politically I don't think they're able to, it becomes a local, regional government issue. I certainly think that they can provide information on impacts, concerns, and what they might suggest or recommend for the board, but I'll allow them to speak to that piece. The other consideration, when I did do digging, it was kind of surprising to me, quite honestly, that overall, in the county, I would say the actual fires started that have been directly attributed to fireworks within Calaveras County have been relatively minimal. And a number of the ones that we've responded to have been aerial illegal fireworks under any, only a pyrotechnic operator could be able to be using those fireworks. So I think that's an important consideration, so much so that I started to think I'd be compiling stats for everybody. The statistics don't really bear out very significantly. I think we had 2 in 2016, 1 in 2017, and again, very small scale fires, nothing major at this point. So I think really it comes down to the risk versus benefit of, that there is a risk that a spark obviously would cause a massive fire, but at this point we haven't had that happen in this county. So it's that untangible type of possibility or prevention. So with that, again, I would ask if CAL FIRE might have any comments, or I don't know if the board would prefer doing things in a different order, but I think it would be helpful at least to hear from CAL FIRE on any information that they might have, and then any of our fire districts.
So good
Hello,
afternoon,
Chief.
Roy Evans with CAL FIRE. As Mr. Lutz had alluded to earlier, we have, as a unit, haven't seen significant ignitions due to Safe and Sane fireworks. In the last 3 years, we've only experienced one, and that was an accidental use of that Safe and Sane firework. We do experience a large number of incidents surrounding illegal fireworks, but nothing to the same level as we do with the Safe and Sane. We're here to support and provide whatever statistical information we can to assist you in this study, but ultimately that decision is yours to come to conclusion with.
Thank you, Chief.
You bet.
Are you gentlemen opening this up to discussion at this point?
Your staff, Chief Young, you can speak as long and as hard as you want.
Well, there's 2 districts within Calaveras County that have LRA rating, which is local response area, one being Angels Camp and one being San Andreas. In the SRA, CAL FIRE has a very large presence that they take stance on when it comes to the illegal fireworks, but they get spread really thin every year around July and on January, New Year's Eve. San Andreas proper in itself, we support Safe and Sane fireworks. With that being said, we understand that there's concerns and there's issues, but I think the biggest issue of all is just the enforcement of the folks that are out there that continuously use the illegal fireworks, to which you never hear of any sort of prosecution. You don't hear of anybody being called on the carpet for it. And I know catching them is pretty tough, but hang around here on the 4th of July in San Andreas and you'll get quite a show. It's almost as good as the one they have down at Hogan, with aerial devices. And it's not being done by a company, it's being done by private individuals in their homes and things along that line. I support the fact that there's a number of service organizations that utilize those monies for different projects, helping youth and things along that line that they generate through Safe and Sane fireworks. If you guys are going to follow through with a study, I would encourage you to get as much information as you can. CAL FIRE would be a very good resource, but don't hesitate to talk to the jurisdictions. I know that they sell them in Calco, McCollum Hill, San Andreas. I don't believe that Central allows them. Is that correct, Chief?
We do. We didn't in the past. We changed our position on that.
Okay.
I'll come up and address that.
Excellent.
I'll bet you will. And Ebbets Pass. So you have a tough road to hoe. You really do. But there's no statistics that's going to back this, as far as I know of, as far as banning these in Calaveras County.
Thank you, Chief.
There we go. Question. Hey, Chief Young? Does I know you do a lot of representing for the Chiefs Association. Does the Chiefs Association have a position on this?
I don't believe they do, and it's not something that's come before that group, but as of this month, I will no longer be president of the Chiefs. I've been in that group for 20 years, and 20 years I've held an office every year for 20 years. And I decided as of this year, I want to sit in the audience and point fingers and laugh and have fun. So I think it's something, we've got a good gentleman picked out for that position. I think it's something that could be brought up at the next board chiefs meeting. And we would encourage any of you to be there to bring that forward if you'd like.
This is kind of an unfair question because it's not based on math, so I'm just asking your sort of gut on this thing. There's obviously inherent risks to fireworks in our summer in Calaveras County. Do you think that the risks outweigh the rewards?
I don't know. I guess I would say, I guess we could probably start looking at outlawing cars going down the street with people under the influence of narcotics or other,
Sure.
because that caused the Willow Creek fire, but we're not looking in that direction. If we had statistics backing it that showed that there was documented proof that there's an issue, that would be one thing. I do want to tell you that regardless of what your decision is, I will support your decision. But enforcement on this, I don't know if you've talked to our sheriff or not, but I just don't see, those men and women are overworked as it is, in my opinion. And now you would be adding something else to their lists of tasks to do, and I think it's going to overwhelm the county as a whole.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you, Chief. Chief DeOro.
Good day, I'm Mike DeLordo, Chief of McCallum Hill Fire Department again. I've been a member of the fire department for 52 years. I've been to 3 fireworks-caused fires in 52 years. 2 of them I know were started by illegal fireworks, and I think the first one, although it was a long ways back, I think was started by what later became illegal fireworks because they weren't illegal then. I would stand to say that I think it's a very poor idea to ban safe and sane fireworks for a number of reasons. One is adults usually work with their children with safe and sane fireworks. The illegal fireworks obviously continue even though they're illegal. And they no doubt are being done by lack of supervision. So I think we're a lot better off with safe and sane fireworks with the potential of having adult supervision and developing the knowledge of the young people and make them aware of safety. So I'm definitely opposed to banning safe and sane fireworks. I would point out the other 2 fires that were actually in McCallum Hill that were from, I believe, both illegal fireworks, amounted to less than what you can see here, less than this room, less than this area. The third one was a very big one. It was from a bottle rocket, or several, fired from Amador County at Box Beach. That was a big fire. But other than that, it was illegal fireworks. I have been to more car-started fires in the wildland than I've ever been, well, even to illegal fireworks. So maybe you should consider banning cars. So I'm opposed. I would tell you that without violating the Brown Act, I only contacted one board member today when I told him I was coming over here. It was the chair, and it was pretty clear that she agreed that it should not be, and as a matter of fact, she gave me a very long list of what she could be working on. So anyhow, thank you.
So, Chief, pattern is the fires come from Amador to Mokell. So we should,
Well,
we should
the
ban
re-
them next.
Yeah, are we banning Amador
okay.
County now?
Council, I want to take judicial notice that I did not respond to that comment.
Jeff Stone, the fire chief for Central Calaveras Fire, and I'm also a deputy district attorney with the county. And so I have basically two perspectives to bring to this conversation. Central Calaveras Fire, a number of years ago, it's probably 6 or 7 years ago, we did enact a local fireworks ban just for the Central Calaveras Fire District. In our ban, we made possession of safe and sane fireworks an infraction, and we also only banned them during fire season. So we did still allow the use of safe and sane fireworks over New Year's, but we just prohibited them during the summer. The ban was in effect for 3 years. We never received a single complaint or call or ever responded to any violations of our ban. We did have some problems with enforcement, and I'm not sure we'd have the same problems if the county had a similar ban. Our problems were mainly, I employ firefighters, mostly volunteers. They're not law enforcement officers, and so we didn't really have a real mechanism to really enforce a law. We could have put the effort into it, just really simply never came up. But, again, we never received any complaints about people using illegal fireworks. The only complaints we've ever received have always been involving the use of what were clearly illegal fireworks, notably bottle rockets, aerial fireworks, those things. Then we did have a public kind of outcry against the ban. And about 3 years ago, our board rescinded that. And so we now are back to the status quo where we simply prohibit any fireworks that would otherwise be illegal in the county, in the state, and those things. So what we did instead is we encouraged the community to come to a community picnic at the Mountain Ranch Ballpark. And we for the last 3 years on the 4th of July, we've done a community picnic. I have my firefighters go there. We do a fire safety standby, and we encourage people to use their safe and sane fireworks on the nice grass, watered, dirt ballpark and enjoy their community park. And this has really turned out to probably be the best solution. Parents there, if anybody has any concerns or questions about safety or whatever, I've got firefighters standing by. In reality, what happens is we get people that they want to enjoy their safe and sane fireworks. They've bought them, contributed to their, the local nonprofits and everything. And what they do is they I'm not really comfortable lighting these, and they'll ask my volunteer firefighters, hey, I see that, you're willing to help. Would you, help me educate my kids in how to safely use that? And that's what we've done. It's been pretty successful, and I'm sure if the county was interested in going that route, I'm pretty sure I stole the idea from Angel City Fire. I think they've been doing the same thing for quite some time, and I'm sure other agencies would be willing to do a similar thing. So that's one option. Kind of switching hats from the district attorney's office. If you are interested in enacting a ban, a couple things that you might want to consider. One is making the possession of safe and sane fireworks an infraction rather than a misdemeanor. If you make something a misdemeanor, what that means is that the maximum penalty that could be imposed on somebody is putting them in jail for either 6 months or a year. If you're willing to stand in front of a judge or a jury and argue that somebody that has safe and sane fireworks is a criminal and should go to jail, then you would want to make it a misdemeanor offense. I think most of these cases, that's not the case. Most people would consider this to be more analogous to a speeding ticket. In other words, it's something that we don't want you to do, but the punishment for it is going to be a fine. So that's one thing that I would urge you to consider if you do want to pursue a ban, is making it an infraction. The things that go along with that is infractions are much easier for the judicial system to process. If there's a dispute about whether the violation occurred, it's heard by a judge and not a full jury. And so it enables these things to be processed much faster. It generally means that the district attorney's office is not really directly involved in the prosecution. The person shows up for court just like they would a speeding ticket. They argue their case in front of a judge, and then a judge decides, yes, they did commit the violation, or no, they did not. And if they did, the judge imposes a fine. The second consideration is if you are going to impose some type of a ban, you'll want to give some thought to the process in which the safe and sane fireworks are disposed of. You can talk to CAL FIRE, but for the illegal fireworks, CAL FIRE does have a process for disposing of the illegal fireworks that they confiscate. There are some provisions that allow for them to dispose of safe and sane fireworks, but when I did a quick read of the statutes, it didn't seem to include fireworks that were seized, safe and sane fireworks that were seized by a local authority under their local rules. It seemed to give CAL FIRE the authority to dispose of safe and sane fireworks. For example, if they were confiscated from a seller who was selling them outside of the allowed time period. So just something that you would want to address if you were going to enact a ban. You'd want to make sure there's some mechanism that somebody's responsible and somebody has the money to dispose of that. I'm sure there is some cost to that. So that's my thoughts on the subject. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Chief Johnson.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. Mike Johnson, Evans Pass Fire District. So I figured I would confuse things more by bringing it full circle to a district that has made safe and sane fireworks illegal since, I believe, 2003. We do operate within an SRA and work closely with our partners at CAL FIRE, and they've facilitated over the years, many different collection times where we've collected safe and sane fireworks from folks in our district coming forward and said, oh, I didn't realize it until I saw the posting, or the Amber Alert sign that said we don't allow fireworks in the Evans Pass Fire District, so on and so forth. So we feel like, echoing the sentiment of my peers today is, we don't have a track record of these fires being started by fireworks, although, we have had this ordinance in place for a very long time. We do have a process in place that takes things from a educational standpoint, if we do have people that are using fireworks, all the way to, having dates with the court in case we have to, cite somebody and have them go before a judge. We haven't had a lot of those. It's more of the educational piece, and people understand that being in the area, such as we are, that any kind of fire ignition source is a very bad thing considering the devastation of our wildfires here in California. And it's a very easy and understandable, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Sorry, as Supervisor Oliveira knows, our numbers swell from a 4,000 population, 20, 25, 30,000 people. We don't anticipate everybody has the local knowledge and understanding of what their vacation rental or vacation home rules and regulations are. So they are understanding once they get that education piece, though. So I thought I'd share that piece and understand too that, if there's not a consensus across the whole county, I don't think that's, depending on one way or the other, you do have the ability for your local district to put something in place if there's something specific that works in one area and maybe not in another. So those are some options for you as well, and happy to answer any questions from a perspective of a district that has something in place already.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. I'd like to add, enforcing of no fireworks in Ebbets Pass Fire District is a constant thing, and we do realize that we have our visitors, especially on 4th of July, New Year's Eve, folks that come from the Bay Area, maybe they're renting a house or it's a vacation home or something. They are using safe and sane fireworks, and they're not aware of the prohibited use in Ebbets Pass Fire. I particularly like the idea of a sliding scale enforcement. Basically, not everybody that thinks they've committed a crime or unknowingly committed a crime needs to go to jail. But the bottom line is, I think Chief Johnson and Ebbets Pass Fire do a wonderful job of taking care of that. There is several calls we get during those holiday seasons of folks using fireworks, even safe and sane fireworks in Ebbets Pass. But I think we've learned how to deal with that, and that call for service on those gets lower and lower. So we're making some headway. So if you're looking, and I would encourage my other supervisors in your districts, if you're looking for some type of solution, let's look at Ebbets Pass Fire. That seems to work for us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other staff or public record or public speaker?
Just real quickly, I was given some information, some statistics from Joel Schwartz representing Copper Fire, and he did a in-depth study for the last 18 years on the 3-day holiday weekend of the 4th, and they said that they had reported 3 vegetation fires, 2 were roadside, which you suspect was vehicle started. 1 was in a residential area. I believe that one I actually witnessed when I was employed there. It was a illegal discharge of a firework off a deck that created a small vegetation fire, and I believe it injured a child trying to extinguish it. So that was, I think, the only cause. So as far as my fire district, our stats are consistent with others where there hasn't been any significant fire. But I do want to commend the board when we're talking about fire prevention and trying to reduce the risk of fires, not only on the 4th, but any kind of potential risk to this county. So I thank you for having that conversation and allowing us to be a part of it.
Jason,
Yes, sir.
has your board had any conversations about this?
We have not.
You have not. Thank you.
Chief, I do have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
And this is probably for all of the staff. We talk about the actual fires, but has anybody had any record on medical aids that would be associated with these type of fireworks?
I do not know if we looked at that data. When I looked at historic, like last year, I don't even believe we ran a call on the 4th, which we're very thankful for. We can find that medical aids.
I just want to be sure that we're looking at both components and understanding if there's no fires, that there's also no medical aids resolved or revolving around it as well, that it's not just the fire site.
Yeah, we believe the intent of this ordinance was for fireworks and for the potential fire. We can dive into that data if you want us to look as medical and EMS related calls as well.
Thank you, Chief. Go ahead, Sean.
Do you know of any data or any statistics or anything about how many people that don't live in this county or jurisdictions that prohibit it drive to places here that sell it and then transport it back?
I have no idea how to obtain that. Maybe, CAL FIRE, are you aware of anything?
Yeah, I don't know how you would either, but I thought maybe if there was some type of something out there. I'm sure that's just based on what I see around our district. There are some displays, but the amount that seems to be sold is not conducive to what's being displayed here. It's got to be going, to Lodi or Stockton. They're driving up here to purchase or whatever. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
I was going to say that was
I'm sorry,
more comments
staff?
from fire districts.
Yeah.
Could I just make one kind of comment on the issue that Supervisor Mills brought up? I think the safety, in other words, the use of the user is one of the real critical components that the state fire marshal looks at in the safe and sane designation. So while, burn injuries and everything, are still possible even with safe and sane fireworks, I think a lot of the serious risk is somewhat addressed through the safe and sane designation. And of course, the illegal fireworks, they're already illegal, so that's not really the issue we're turning at. In the last 15 years, I'm not aware of any specific firework-related medical calls, certainly in Central Fire's district, and I have not heard of any countywide. But, there still is the burn risk, and the sparklers and everything, can do serious burn injuries,
So is this where I say I grew up in an area with M80s tied to batteries going fishing?
What's that?
When I was a kid, we used to tie M80s to batteries to go fishing.
Yes.
That's a different part of the world.
Exactly.
Any other staff presenters? Seeing none, we'll open it up to public comment.
Hello, my name is Sean Paulson. I am the Parent-Teacher Club president, also pastor at Copper Canyon Baptist Church. We sell these in Copperopolis, and I would answer the question of how much. I would say 40% of our sales are from people from outside of town. I know pretty much everybody in Copper, and I can tell who's coming up, and they don't live here. So it doesn't mean they're vacationing or using it, but I know it's about 40%. That's my guess. I am obviously here to support it. We spend the money we make from it, and we buy 3D printers. We send kids on field trips. We send kids to science camp. This is one of our major fundraisers for our school PTC. We do a steak and shrimp, which I invite all of you to next year. It's a great event. We made a good amount of money on it, but this is our other big balance. And the reason we have two events is because we don't want to hit our community and everything with all the other things, because you got Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, soccer, baseball, all of those things. And so we use those two things to fund our parent-teacher club at Copper Elementary. I am shocked, to be real with you, when I moved here, that we actually sell fireworks. I was just someone who sits in the thing and sells it, and it blows me away. So I went to talk to the fire department and ask how many fires have started because of fireworks. And Joel had already beat me to the punch and said 0. And I was like, in 18 years. And that makes sense, because you sit with your kid, you buy it, and it's in a safe environment. We actually had Copper have the fire department open up the parking lot, and everyone comes out, sits in their chairs, and lights off all their fireworks, and they go about this high, and it's a great community event. I am obviously here to support it for the financial reasons. And I say that with, right now, my brother's evacuated from his house in Silmar with a fire. So I understand there's danger. We live in danger. But people smoke, and people drive cars, so there's dangers all the time. So to limit this and the benefit that it comes from, I would just encourage the supervisors to really consider that, because I don't know if there's anybody else who makes money from it here other than me, but it is used, every single penny. And it is a week's worth of work, and we made it $12 grand last year. So that's a lot of field trip, that's science camp, that's a lot of stuff. So I just want to let you know, from someone who benefits from it, I think it's viable, and I think the data supports keeping it and being sold in our area. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having this study session. I was at the last one a few years back as well. And Gary, the question you asked was exactly the one I was jumping up to ask. But when the statement was made that we sell more than we put off here, they must be going somewhere. Do I understand that they're legal in the valley, like in Stockton and Lodi and around, but they're not in like Tuolumne and Amador? Is that accurate? So I think, so if that's accurate, then maybe what we're selling here is going there. And and I think I heard someone say, well, we can't know what kind of statistics they have. Well, we know here because we ask our fire departments. So in the interest of being good neighbors, shouldn't we at least know that if we're having a study session? Ask them, are we selling something that you don't allow and then they're taking them there? I don't know, just part of the discussion, that's all. I'm not for or against, I just think I appreciate the study session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Lisa Fabro. I'm from Ebbets Pass area. And actually, I'm kind of amazed. I guess I'm the only voice in the wilderness. I think that environmentally, everything about fireworks is wrong from the time they're made till the time they're burnt off. It seems like everyone here is saying that it's only the only impact is the possibility of fire, and you're confident it won't happen now. But it seems the longer there isn't a fire from it, the more likely it's eventually going to be one. As this summer has shown us, a lot of people lost their homes. And it wasn't due to fireworks, but for sure we need to progress environmentally and ecologically. The whole idea of bombs in the air, maybe that's not what people say when they're doing it, but it's still making that an acceptable kind of environment. The booms that hurt dogs, cats, people, there's just so much negative about fireworks that it's astonishing to me. You guys are talking about allowing them where we've already managed to get them out. Why would we want to do that? That's going backwards. Don't we want to progress? Don't we want to support our people in a better way than fundraising with something that the only reason they're using it for fundraising is to get it back into our schools, back into our localities? It's not okay. Has anyone studied the impact on the Hogan Lake and the waters there that are actually used by people to drink, right? It's bad enough we have boats and people doing whatever, defecating in the water. I mean, this is hard for me because I'm just astonished, like I said. Why would you want to go backwards? That's all I can say, I guess. This is the first time I've ever stepped up to say something. And I guess for right now, I'm pretty happy with what I said, and I hope it made you think a little. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Good afternoon.
Hello.
I'm really glad that you guys are addressing this. I realize it's a really hard balancing act. You've got people's right to want to be able to celebrate the way they want to, the way they always have. It's a lot of money raised that goes for good things. And on the other side, there's the fire danger, which I think is 90% of the dangerous part of it. Have we had a fire here from fireworks? No. I personally don't think it's a question of if, I think it's a question of when. And in the summertime, with the combination of the dry, thick wildline, the forest fuels, high temperatures and the winds, I just think it's something to certainly consider. And I was going to suggest maybe there's some type of compromise. And I think Mr. Stone said it perfectly. If there could be some type of community place, maybe at the fairgrounds or at the airport where we could have some fire protection on hand, then people could go and celebrate, they could sell, make their money, and it's a safe environment. So I'm just really glad you guys are talking about it, and I think it's something that definitely, a lot of ramifications that really need to be thought about. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board or staff for any deliberation or any discussion. This is an informational item study. There won't be a vote on it.
I didn't have any other items to add, I think. Actually, I will say in one thing, I did look at a model that Madera County uses because they have banned in some areas and allowed in others. And actually consistent with what was said here today, they did it along the LRA, SRA zones to differentiate basically anything up in the mountain areas, higher forest fire risk as opposed to lowland grass fire risk. And they've had their challenges, and maintaining enforcement similar to the stories here, and their statistics are similar to ours as well. I just did want to offer that up as another model that is out there that if the board would like to consider kind of that phased approach, you could do it geographically.
Okay, Supervisor Mills.
Yes, just wanted to clarify, I don't think any of the safe and sane actually do explode, do they? They don't go boom or they don't leave the ground? Okay, it's been a while since I purchased any, so I just want to be sure. Just to clarify, I know most of the gentlemen sitting out here know I used to be in firefighting, so I have a personal familiarity with the situation. No, it's the environmental side. I was thinking about, well, what about the California Air Resources Board? You know, you could take this out in any direction you wanted to, but having the amount of time put into hearing from our fire districts, I think is critical, because they're the ones that are going to face whatever the result is, if it's good, bad, or indifferent. And if you feel that we are adequately addressing the situation with staff and the way that things are being handled now, that's one thing. But if we're not capable of, or we feel we're in a situation where we're going to go into out of control, then that's quite a different story. So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Supervisor Mills. Supervisor Tofinelli?
Yeah, I'm hearing testimony from the chiefs, the fire chiefs from each district, and it seems to me that we should recuse to them, and whether their board wants to ban them in their district. They're the ones that deal with it. They're the ones that have the knowledge of what's going on. They have the knowledge of what's happening with these fireworks and if they're running into problems or not. And we already have that where Ebbets Pass has banned it in theirs and Central has, but now they're back on. So I would think it would be individual boards in those fire districts that would have the knowledge and to decide whether they would like to have it banned in their district or not.
That's an interesting concept, Supervisor Tofinelli. Once again, in my district, Ebbets Pass Fire, we've had this policy since 2003, I believe. But nevertheless, I think the ability to have each fire district make that determination is probably a pretty good solution to a problem. Maybe we should, Supervisor Garamendi, I noticed you want to make a comment before I make a suggestion.
Oh, yeah, I just, first off, I love fireworks. Always have, but we only do them in the wintertime on the ranch because we don't want to burn it down. We're scared to death of lighting the ranch on fire and lighting the whole county on fire, and the Butte fire really kind of, pardon the pun, seared that into our minds. So, I'm troubled because I mean, obviously these are fireworks and it is hot. We're selling them in the summertime. If we were selling them and everybody just wanted to light them off on New Year's, that'd be awesome. We just have a big fireworks show. But that's not when people buy them, and I understand that people, they expect these things. So in my mind, it's really not a question of if, it's when, and I know someone else said that before. But at the same time, I'm stuck because the fire professionals in my community are telling me not to worry about it. And so it obviously puts me in a kind of scared position. I have to trust the professionals. They've always been straight, and they're the ones who are going to be on the front line. So, I hope that somebody doesn't walk out of here and someone lights a fire with the safe and sane after this, and all the chiefs go scrambling for the door. But I do trust you guys, and I trust your data. So it does put us in a tough situation because I think we're all afraid of fire. But if you guys are saying that we're going to be okay, no guarantees, obviously, in life. There's always somebody who'll screw up and light the place on fire. That's a lot to consider. I really value your guys' input. Doesn't mean I don't think everybody ought to do the fireworks on New Year's, though. I think that's a better call.
Any further comments, Supervisor Clapp? Supervisor Mills? At this point, I would probably like to make a suggestion that our fire chiefs go back to their associations, discuss the possibility of enacting any type of local ordinance in the fire district like Ebbets Pass Fire has, and report back to the board. With that information, I think we might be able to at least address that if an ordinance is needed on a county level, or maybe the fire districts would do that. And we'd like to have that information come back to us probably within the next 30 days, if we can, if you'll have a meeting before then. CAO Lutz was correct. If we're going to do something, we have to do it pretty quick. But let's hear from you folks. Any further comments? Thank you, chiefs, for coming out. Thank you, public. Madam Clerk.
Supervisor announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, chapter as Government Code Section 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on meetings they attended at the expense of the local agency at the next regular meeting of the legislative body. This report is required to include meetings attended for which there has been expense reimbursement, mileage, meals, lodging, etc., but may also, at the board member's discretion, include any other meeting attended by the supervisor on behalf of the county.
I think we'll start with Supervisor Clapp. Would you like to start?
Yeah, I attended no meetings this month or last month that required funds from you folks to send me there. And I believe this month my Area 12 will be in county, so that won't cost you either.
Okay. Supervisor Mills?
Strange enough, outside of the transit meeting and CMCAA yesterday, took the last 2 weeks off, first time in 3 years.
Wow.
To actually take some time off, so very much appreciated, and look forward to getting back in the saddle here.
Thank you. Supervisor Toffenelli?
I didn't attend any meetings that I charged anything to the county on or used a county credit card. I did attend a transit meeting, Supervisor Mills, and I did attend interviews yesterday, went on all day. It started at 7:30 in the morning, interviews for the Economic Development Director. And we had the chamber involved, and we had Larry Cope from Tuolumne County Economic Development, the CAO for that over there involved, and the CAO, our CAO, and it went very well. We're going to bring two very, very good candidates before the board.
Excellent. Supervisor Garamendi?
I have to report that I attended the CSAC conference down in Sacramento. It was really an excellent conference, and I think we all should try to attend when we can, because it's very good to meet with other small counties and find out that the problems we face are not unique to us. Everybody's dealing with, everything from FEMA reimbursements. Some counties have it much worse than we do, to cannabis, fires, good government. It was very enlightening, and I enjoyed it. And that's what I have to report.
Thank you. I, on the 20th, attended the Central Sierra Child Support Committee meeting in Sonora. I am a sitting member on that, along with Supervisor Toffenelli. That is one of the very few committees that is operating pretty good, I believe. I think they're doing a wonderful job. They got 92% recovery rate, which is outstanding for a county, and I'm glad to be part of that committee.
They are actually paying down their PERS, too.
They did. They're paying down their PERS in advance and still staying under budget, and did not increase their budget. I mean, that's the way to run a committee, an organization.
Can we talk to them? Consultant fees or anything?
I'll tell you, I'm impressed.
Mike and I demanded it. So.
That's right. Yeah, right. That's wrong. We didn't demand anything. On the 27th, I did attend the Agenda Review Committee meeting, and then headed up to Sacramento for the CSAC conference. CSAC is an organization, ladies and gentlemen, that a lot of people may or may not know a lot about. We've talked about it briefly here in our board meetings, but more importantly, they're an organization that is our voice in the state of California and in Washington, D.C. Our involvement as Calaveras County with CSAC has become more engaging over the last 3-4 years. I've been very fortunate to hold that position as a representative. I told you that to tell you this. There is going to be some movement, if you will, in CSAC, and the opportunities we're starting to see for Calaveras County is starting to rise to the top, if you will. Our board clerk, Diane Severud, being elected to the California State Board of Board Clerks is part of CSAC. They actually enjoy some benefits, and that's very important that she realized that. Our CAO, Tim Lutz, was just appointed a fellow in CSAC. He has been a member of CSAC in Tulare County, and now we're very fortunate to have him as a member of Calaveras County. Once again, our importance is starting to show. At this CSAC convention, I have been approached and requested to run for the executive board of CSAC for next year, not 2018. I'm sorry, not 2017, but 2018. And I've just received an email to be considered for a board chair of our policy committees of my choice. So we're going to be looking at that. I'll be throwing my hat into that. So these trips that folks say that we take, they're not all fun. I'll be quite honest with you. I attended no less than 9 workshops. My day started about 7:30 in the morning and ended sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night, because it gives us an opportunity to network with our fellow supervisors from all 58 counties and some representatives from vendors and things of that sort. So it's a worthwhile association. And I'm proud to be representative for Calaveras County, and hopefully when my day's over, that'll continue with our supervisors here. So, staff, do we have any reporting out to do?
I also obviously attended CSAC. I think a couple items of note. One, at the CAO's business meeting, what we discussed and then also came up at Finance Committee is something we're watching closely, and that is PERS is once again looking at their modeling for their for the unfunded liabilities and also their rates of return. And there's a split camp. Some are suggesting lowering that estimated rate of return even further than their last report was, which would directly impact our PERS rates for existing employees. And another thing that they're looking at is the time horizons for their recovery of unfunded liabilities. Right now, like a mortgage, essentially they've mapped it out as a 30-year. They're looking at a 20-year. Those of you that have purchased a mortgage know it's always great if you can get a 15, 20-year mortgage. You pay it off significantly faster, but at a much higher rate. So the concern is, and there's a lot of focus on what that's potentially means to counties should the PERS board adopt those rules. And the challenge has been there's very little influence or lobbying that can be done to kind of change what they decide. Although given the huge unfunded liability issue across the state, I think there's going to be a lot of conversation as PERS meets this month in December and then into January, what that might mean for us. So we're watching that closely on what develops, and I'll keep this board updated because that's a significant concern for our future liabilities. Additionally, while we were up there, I did get an opportunity for us to meet the chair, vice chair, and myself with government financial strategies. I was going to call them solutions, but it's strategies, to talk a little bit about options for the TOT and how if we were to be going out with a measure on the ballot to increase it, what they might suggest. I think we left a little deflated in terms of some of the process and length of time that it might take. And I might suggest, if we are considering the TOT, that we probably need to create some type of an ad hoc committee of the board now to sit down and kind of map that out, since our timelines are very short on being able, we were talking about February, to be able to get something passed by the board to get on the ballot for June.
I would agree on the ad hoc committee, and also including the Visitors Bureau and including Chamber, getting all the resources we possibly can to make this a successful endeavor for the county and its residents and its visitors. Any further comments? Yes, sir. I'll let you talk. I'm going to have you come to the microphone. We're going to give you a very special occasion here. You've been here a long time.
Actually not, that was maybe the issue. I'm just here to follow up on one of the agenda items, and I don't know if it's been addressed or not. And it's the board's approval of a volunteer to join the mental health board. And I don't know if that happened when I was here. I kind of looked at what was going on the internet, so don't know. Did it happen?
Okay, sir, I think we can provide that information. If you'll speak with our board clerk, Diane Severute, she might be able to give you the results of that agenda item.
Yes, the application was approved before 11 o'clock this morning.
Okay, fantastic. I didn't read your agenda sequence properly. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you, sir.
Good day.
And
Ladies and gentlemen,
Richard,
I'm sorry.
Before you adjourn, I was going to say, if we are going to do that ad hoc committee, I might suggest if we can get 2 board members now, just knowing we're in December and time, if we could get a...
County Council?
No.
The ad hoc committee and what you're discussing is not on the agenda. So if you're wanting to have a full substantive discussion of what the ad hoc committee would be comprised of, what the purpose is, the timelines and everything else, I would recommend that that be agendized for a subsequent board meeting and bring it, certainly.
Is there any way we can get that done by next board meeting, the 12th? Oh, I'm getting dirty looks from both board clerks.
The time period's already passed to put an item on the agenda.
Okay, we're going to have to arrange it. 19th, can we arrange for that? All right. 19th, will that work?
That date's been missed as well. We wouldn't be able to put on the agenda for the 19th.
I was going to say, though, given that the next available meeting would be in January, we're trying to make fewer exceptions to bypassing that, but I think at this point we could at least get it to the 19th.
Let's try for January then. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending. Our next meeting will be next Tuesday. Okay.
We need to revisit this because it's my understanding that the CAO said the 19th would be okay.
Oh.
That we're trying not to make exceptions, but we can put it in there at this point. I think this is important enough that we want to get the ad hoc committee doing business sooner rather than later.
So we can get it on the 19th agenda?
Yes.
Okay, then I stand corrected. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Our next meeting is going to be next Tuesday. I don't know if we have a closed session yet, but it'll be 9 o'clock here in the chambers for the Board of Supervisors. Meeting is adjourned.